12 hours after my parents told me they'd stolen my inheritance, they called screaming that my sister's wedding venue was canceled. They had no idea that the venue was the family cabin they'd just signed over to me. My name is Ryan Fletcher, I'm 29 years old, and this story is about what happens when parents play favorites so hard that they forget to read the fine print. I grew up in northern Minnesota with my parents David and Catherine and my younger sister Vanessa, who's 25. The most important person in this story isn't alive anymore. My grandpa George passed away 6 years ago when I was 23. He was my dad's father, and he was the best man I've ever known. He'd built a cabin on Lake Superior back in the 70s, this beautiful 3-bedroom place right on the water with a dock and a boathouse. That cabin was Grandpa's pride and joy. He'd built parts of it himself, spent every summer there with Grandma before she passed, and it was where our family made our best memories. Every summer growing up, we'd spend 2 weeks at the cabin, swimming, fishing, bonfires on the beach, no phones or TV, just family time. Grandpa and I were close, really close. Dad was always busy with work, kind of distant emotionally, but Grandpa filled that gap. He taught me to fish, to fix things, to work with my hands. We'd spend hours at the cabin just talking about life, values, what mattered. Vanessa, on the other hand, hated the cabin. She thought it was boring, too isolated, no cell service. She'd complain the entire 2 weeks every summer. As soon as she turned 16, she started making excuses to skip the cabin trips. Camps, friends' houses, anything to avoid it. This hurt Grandpa, but he never said much about it. He'd just shrug and say, "Some people appreciate simple things. Some people need excitement. That's just how it is." When Grandpa got sick with cancer, I drove up to see him every weekend. 4-hour drive each way, but I didn't care. Vanessa visited twice in 6 months. Both times, she spent most of the visit on her phone. Before Grandpa passed, he pulled me aside. "Ryan, I'm leaving the cabin to you and your sister equally. It's in my will. 50-50 ownership. Grandpa, Vanessa doesn't even like the cabin." "I know, but it's family property and family shares. Maybe someday she'll appreciate it, and if she doesn't, you two can work something out together." "What about Dad? Doesn't he get a say?" "Your father will be fine. I'm leaving him other assets. The cabin goes to you kids. But Ryan, there's something important you need to know." He explained that he'd put a specific clause in his will if either heir tried to remove the other's name from the deed without consent, or if my parents tried to manipulate the inheritance. Ownership would automatically transfer entirely to the other heir. It was his way of making sure the cabin stayed fair and couldn't be used as a manipulation tool. I don't trust your dad to not play favorites, Grandpa said. "I love him, but I know him. He'll side with whoever makes the most noise. This clause protects you." I thought he was being paranoid, but I listened. After Grandpa died, the will went through probate. The cabin was officially deeded to Vanessa and me, 50-50. We were both named on the deed. I kept my copy of the deed in a safe deposit box. For the first few years, nothing happened. Vanessa had no interest in the cabin. I'd go up there most weekends, maintaining it, fixing things that broke, keeping Grandpa's dream alive. I'd invite Vanessa, but she always said she was too busy. My parents would visit occasionally, but it was clear they saw the cabin as mine in practice, even if Vanessa owned half on paper. Then about 6 months ago, Vanessa got engaged to her boyfriend, Derek. He was a financial analyst making decent money, and Vanessa had talked her way into a marketing coordinator job at a tech company making around $60,000 a year. The engagement was a big deal. Mom and Dad were thrilled. Vanessa was their golden child, always had been. She was social, charismatic, knew how to work people. I was the quiet one who fixed things and kept to myself. Vanessa immediately started planning this massive wedding. She wanted 200 guests, a designer dress, a live band, the works. She priced it out at around $80,000. Problem: Vanessa and Derek had about $12,000 saved. Mom and Dad had offered to pay $20,000. That left a $48,000 gap. At first, Vanessa tried to scale down the wedding, but every time she looked at venues or talked to vendors, she'd get attached to the expensive options. She wanted the dream wedding, not the budget version. That's when someone, I don't know who, had the idea about the cabin. The cabin was worth about $400,000. Lake Superior waterfront property had skyrocketed in value over the years. If they sold it, Vanessa's half would be $200,000, more than enough for the wedding with plenty left over. I first heard about this plan at a family dinner 3 weeks ago. We were at my parents' house, and Dad brought it up casually over dessert. "Ryan, we've been talking as a family, and we think it makes sense to sell the cabin." I put down my fork. "Sell it? Why?" "It's just sitting there. You're the only one who uses it, and that's not fair to Vanessa. She owns half of it, but gets no benefit." "She could use it any time. I've invited her dozens of times." "But she doesn't want to use it," Mom jumped in. "She wants to access her share of the value, and with the wedding coming up, this is the perfect opportunity. We can sell it, split the proceeds, and everyone benefits." "I don't want to sell it. It was Grandpa's cabin." "Grandpa's gone," Dad said bluntly. "The cabin is just a building. Vanessa's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Family supports family." There it was. That phrase, family supports family. The phrase they always used when they wanted me to sacrifice something for Vanessa. If Vanessa wants to sell her half, she can buy me out or we can work something out. But I'm not selling. Vanessa spoke up for the first time. That's so selfish, Ryan. I need this money. You already get to use the cabin whenever you want. Why can't you let me access my fair share? Because selling it means I lose it too. I don't get a vote in that. You get a vote, Dad said. But 2 against 1. Vanessa wants to sell. Your mom and I agree it's the right move, so majority wins. Mom and Dad aren't on the deed. It's just me and Vanessa. Actually, Dad said, and something about his tone made my stomach drop. That's what we need to talk to you about. When you turned 18, you signed some paperwork, remember? You thought it was for college financial aid? I remembered. I'd signed a stack of papers when I was 18, trusting my parents that it was all financial aid and tax stuff for college. That paperwork included a deed transfer form. We took your name off the cabin deed. Vanessa is the sole owner now, has been for 11 years. The room went silent, except for the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. You did what? We knew even back then that Vanessa would need financial help in the future more than you would. You were always the self-sufficient one, so we made sure the cabin would be available for her when she needed it. That's fraud. I didn't knowingly sign away my inheritance. You signed the papers, son. That's legally binding. Mom nodded in agreement. We did what was best for the family. You don't even visit the cabin that much anyway. I'm there almost every weekend. Well, you'll have to find a new hobby. We're selling it next month. The realtor is already lined up. I looked at Vanessa. She wouldn't meet my eyes, but she wasn't objecting. She was okay with this. They'd stolen my inheritance, and she was perfectly fine with it. Okay, I said quietly. Okay. Dad looked surprised. Yeah, okay. Do what you want. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and left. Didn't say goodbye, didn't argue, just walked out. In my car, I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, processing. They'd forged my signature or tricked me into signing away my inheritance when I was 18. They'd waited 11 years to tell me. They were selling the cabin to fund Vanessa's wedding, and they expected me to just accept it. Then I remembered Grandpa's clause. I drove home and pulled out my copy of Grandpa's will from my safe deposit box. Read through it carefully. There it was in Section 7, Paragraph 3. In the event that either heir attempts to remove the other heir from the deed through fraudulent means, coercion, or without explicit written consent witnessed by an attorney, full ownership of the property shall immediately transfer to the wronged party. This clause is irrevocable and self-executing upon proof of violation. Grandpa had protected me from exactly this scenario. The next morning, I called the family lawyer who'd handled Grandpa's estate. His name was Thomas Morrison, and he was semi-retired, but still took calls about the estate. Ryan Fletcher, I haven't heard from you in years. What can I do for you? I explained everything. The dinner conversation, my parents' admission that they'd removed me from the deed when I was 18, Vanessa's sole ownership now. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Did your parents mention how they removed you from the deed? Dad said I signed paperwork when I was 18, but I didn't know what I was signing. They told me it was for college financial aid. That's fraud, and it triggers the clause your grandfather built into his will. Ryan, as of right now, you're the sole legal owner of that cabin. What? Your grandfather anticipated exactly this situation. He knew your parents might try to manipulate the inheritance. The clause is self-executing, which means the moment they violated it, ownership transferred automatically. We just need to file the paperwork to make it official. How long does that take? I can file an emergency motion this afternoon. With the evidence you have, your parents' own admission, we can have the deed corrected within 24 hours. Do it. Thomas filed the paperwork that afternoon. By 5 p.m., I received a call from him. It's done. The county has been notified. The deed has been corrected to show you as sole owner, and your parents and Vanessa have been sent official notice that they no longer have any claim to the property. What happens if they try to sell it anyway? They can't. You're the only person who can legally sell that cabin now. Any sale they attempt would be void. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The cabin was safe. Grandpa's legacy was protected. Then my phone started ringing. Dad's name. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then Mom called. Voicemail. Then Vanessa. Voicemail. Finally, I listened to Dad's messages. The first one. Ryan, we need to talk. Call me back immediately. The second one. Ryan, this isn't funny. The county called and said there's an issue with the cabin deed. Call me now. The third one. You little shit. What did you do? The realtor can't list the property. They're saying we don't own it. If you did something, you need to fix it right now. Mom's message was shorter. Ryan, I don't know what you've done, but you're destroying your sister's wedding. How could you be so selfish? Vanessa's message was her crying. Ryan, please. The venue deposit was supposed to come from the cabin sale. We put the deposit on a credit card, thinking we'd pay it off when the cabin sold. Now we can't pay it and the venue is canceling. My wedding is in 3 months. Please don't do this." I didn't call any of them back. The next morning, 12 hours after the deed correction, Dad showed up at my apartment. He was furious, red-faced, practically shaking. "What the hell did you do?" "I enforced Grandpa's will. Grandpa's will gave the cabin to both of you. And you committed fraud by removing me from the deed without my knowledge when I was 18. Grandpa's will had a clause for exactly that situation. If either heir is wrongfully removed, the property goes entirely to them. Congratulations, Dad. You played yourself." "That's insane. You're telling me you own the entire cabin now?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you." "Over a technicality? Over you forging documents and lying to me for 11 years, you stole my inheritance. Grandpa made sure there would be consequences for that. We didn't steal anything. We did what was best for the family." "You did what was best for Vanessa. Like you always do. But Grandpa saw right through you. He knew you'd pull something like this, and he protected me from it." "Vanessa's wedding is ruined because of you." "Vanessa's wedding is ruined because you tried to fund it by stealing from me? That's not my problem. She's your sister, and I'm your son. But that never seemed to matter when Vanessa wanted something." Dad stood there, breathing hard, trying to figure out how to win this argument. He couldn't. The law was on my side. Grandpa had made sure of it. "So, what now?" he finally asked. "You're just going to keep the cabin and let your sister's wedding fall apart?" "I'm going to keep what's mine, yes. What Vanessa does about her wedding is up to her. We can't afford the venue without the cabin money. The deposit is on a credit card we can't pay off. Then cancel the venue. Have a smaller wedding. Do what normal people do when they can't afford something. You're unbelievable. I'm protecting my inheritance. If that makes me the bad guy in your eyes, I can live with that." Dad left. He didn't slam the door, just walked out quietly, which was somehow worse. Over the next week, the calls and texts were relentless. Mom crying about how I was destroying the family. Vanessa begging me to reconsider, saying she'd do anything. Dad alternating between anger and guilt trips. Extended family got involved. My aunt called saying I was being cruel. My uncle sent a text saying family is more important than property. Cousins I hadn't talked to in years were suddenly messaging me about how disappointed Grandpa would be. That one made me laugh. Grandpa would be proud. He'd built that clause specifically to protect me from this situation. The worst were Vanessa's messages. She'd send long texts about how her dream wedding was falling apart, how Derek's family was judging her for not being able to afford the venue, how embarrassed she was. She'd cry about how I was ruining the happiest day of her life. Not once did she apologize for being okay with stealing my inheritance. I didn't respond to any of them. I'd said what I needed to say. 2 weeks after the deed transfer, I got a call from Thomas, the lawyer. "Ryan, I need to inform you that your parents have hired an attorney. They're attempting to challenge the deed transfer." "On what grounds?" "They're claiming your grandfather wasn't of sound mind when he added that clause. They're also arguing that the clause is overly punitive and should be invalidated." "Can they win?" "No. Your grandfather's will was thoroughly vetted. He was absolutely of sound mind. Multiple doctors confirmed that. And the clause isn't punitive, it's protective. It only activates if someone commits fraud. The judge will see that." "So I'm safe?" "Completely. But this will drag out for a few months. Just be prepared for that." "I'm prepared." The legal battle was exhausting. My parents' lawyer filed motion after motion, trying to find any angle to overturn the deed. They deposed me, asking detailed questions about my relationship with Grandpa, trying to suggest he'd manipulated me or that I'd manipulated him. None of it worked. Every motion was denied. Every argument was rejected. Finally, 4 months after the initial deed transfer, a judge ruled definitively the cabin was mine. Entirely, legally, permanently mine. The clause in Grandpa's will was valid and enforceable. My parents' removal of me from the deed had triggered the clause, and there was no reversing it. I won. Vanessa's wedding happened 2 months after my first victory. She'd had to drastically scale down. Instead of 200 guests at a luxury venue, she had 60 people at a community center. Instead of a designer dress, she bought something off the rack. Instead of a live band, they had a DJ with a basic sound system. It was fine. It was a perfectly nice wedding, but it wasn't the dream wedding she'd wanted. She didn't invite me, neither did my parents. I was officially persona non grata. I was okay with that. What I wasn't okay with was the smear campaign. After the wedding, Vanessa and my parents told everyone who'd listen that I'd stolen the cabin, that I'd manipulated Grandpa's will, that I was a selfish, greedy person who'd destroyed my own sister's happiness. Cousins I'd grown up with stopped talking to me. Family friends unfriended me on social media. Even some of my own friends, who only heard my parents' side, started asking uncomfortable questions about whether I'd really done the right thing. I thought about fighting back, about telling everyone the truth. But I realized something. The people who mattered already knew the truth. And the people who believed my parents' lies without asking my side weren't people I needed in my life. 6 months after the wedding, I was at the cabin for the weekend when I got an unexpected visitor. Vanessa. She pulled up in her car, walked down to the dock where I was sitting, and stood there awkwardly. "I'm surprised you still have the gate code," I said. "I guessed. You never were creative with passwords." "Fair point. What do you want, Vanessa?" "I want to talk. Can I sit?" I gestured to the other chair. She sat. "Derek and I are having problems," she said after a long silence. "Sorry to hear that. The wedding debt is crushing us. We owe $32,000 on credit cards from trying to fund a wedding we couldn't afford. Derek resents me for it. He thinks I should have just accepted a smaller wedding from the beginning. We fight about money, constantly. I didn't say anything. Mom and Dad are still paying off the refinance they took on their house to help cover some of the costs. They're stressed all the time. Dad's talking about postponing retirement. And you're telling me this why? Because I need you to understand what your decision cost us." "My decision?" I looked at her. "Vanessa, you were okay with stealing my inheritance. You knew Dad had taken my name off the deed, and you said nothing. You were fine with selling the cabin that Grandpa left to both of us without my consent. Don't talk to me about costs when you were willing to cost me everything." "I didn't think you cared about the cabin that much." "Why would you think that? I'm here almost every weekend. I maintain it. I pay for repairs out of my own pocket. I've kept Grandpa's dream alive while you didn't even bother to visit once after he died." I know I was wrong. But Ryan, it's done now. The wedding happened. The debt exists. Can't you just sell the cabin and give me my half? It would fix everything." I actually laughed. "You want me to sell Grandpa's cabin, the cabin that's legally mine because you tried to steal it, and give you money to fix the financial problems you created by trying to steal it? Do you hear yourself? It's not about the money. It's about family." "No, it's exactly about the money. It's always been about the money with you. You wanted money for a wedding you couldn't afford, so you tried to take my inheritance. Now you want money to fix the debt from that wedding, so you're asking me to give up my inheritance voluntarily. When is it going to be about family for you? When is it going to be about anything other than what you want?" She started crying. "I miss how things used to be. When we were kids and we'd come here with Grandpa. Remember the bonfires, the fishing trips, the s'mores? I remember you complaining the entire time and begging to go home early. I was young and stupid. I didn't appreciate what we had. And you're older now, but still don't appreciate what you had. You had a brother who loved you, who would have helped you figure out wedding finances without stealing from him, but you chose the easy, selfish route, and now you want me to fix the consequences. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? An apology would be a start, but more than that, I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You don't get to steal from people and then ask them to save you from the fallout." Vanessa stood up. "Fine. Keep your precious cabin, but don't expect me to be part of your life anymore." "I haven't expected that for a while now." She left. That was 8 months. Ego. I haven't heard from Vanessa since. Mom and Dad call occasionally, usually around holidays, trying to act like nothing happened. I keep the conversations short and surface level. Last month I got a letter from Thomas, the lawyer. My parents had finally dropped their legal challenge. After spending over $40,000 on legal fees, they'd accepted that they'd lost. $40,000 they could have saved if they'd just left my inheritance alone. I'm at the cabin now as I write this, sitting on the same dock where Grandpa taught me to fish. The sun is setting over Lake Superior, painting the sky orange and pink. It's peaceful here. Quiet. The way Grandpa always said it should be. The cabin is mine, entirely, legally, permanently mine, and I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life, maintaining it, protecting it, honoring Grandpa's memory the way he deserves. My parents thought they could manipulate the inheritance, play favorites, and face no consequences. They thought I was the quiet, compliant son who'd just accept whatever they decided. They forgot that Grandpa knew them better than they knew themselves, and he loved me enough to protect me from them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to people who wrong you. It's what their own actions do to them when someone refuses to save them from the consequences. Vanessa wanted a dream wedding funded by my inheritance. She got a budget wedding funded by debt. My parents wanted to play favorites without pushback. They got legal bills and a son who knows exactly what they're capable of. And me, I got exactly what Grandpa wanted me to have. The cabin, the peace, and the knowledge that some things are worth fighting for. Family supports family. Grandpa taught me that. He just also taught me that support should go both ways, not just in whatever direction is most convenient for the golden child. I support the family members who respect me. The rest can figure it out on their own.